And here we are in the game in the top left-hand corner of the map from Team Acer, guys. The purple Zerg player, she is Scarlet. Scarlet is facing off against, in the bottom right-hand corner, a very, very strong Protoss player, Fnatic, ladies and gentlemen, Oz.
Fnatic, Oz, raid call indeed, and we'll see what Oz has to offer now against a player who's honestly very adept in almost all matchups. Yep. In fact, they matched up at IPL 4 when he was with FXO at the time. So, and I believe she took a game from him, but couldn't quite take the set, as I believe what it was. But we'll see if she can win this best of one essentially right now. At
the same time, Scarlet has gotten so incredibly good since those days.
Yeah.
I mean, is now arguably the strongest foreigner, if not definitely one of the strongest foreigners in the world outside of Korea. And I'm gonna say that every time I go to, like, you know, talk about StarCraft with somebody who doesn't know StarCraft.
Oh, yeah.
You're like getting a haircut and you're like, yeah, actually I'm caster for StarCraft, and then they're like start asking questions. You're like, well, the foreigners, you know, aren't as. Oh wait, let me preface that. Foreigners are anyone who's not Korean.
Yeah, we're foreigners. So. Yeah, I run into exactly the same problems. But we'll see what Oz does now. This is an interesting pylon placement. I have to say, he's going to go for a Nexus first, but most of the time in effort for players to be much more macro-oriented, no, Forge blocking inside of his main to start. In an effort to be very macro-oriented, a lot of Protoss players will just drop their pylon as close as possible to their mineral line so they can eke out those extra few resources.
Yep.
But if Oz knows his opponent, this is not a bad read, because Scarlet is someone who loves to go hatch first against Protoss players, and indeed she's doing it right here.
Yeah, her and Sen, it's kind of interesting. They just, like, and not many Zergs do it, honestly, right now, because especially on, like, maps like this where the mineral line, you run into this problem where it's very closed off behind, so it's easy to pylon block yourself, but in all reality, queens are just so good because on Entombed Valley, you can actually come forward with your queen and hit the cannons from the high ground, so it's not so bad. So here, it's not too much of a surprise to see Scarlet going for that hatch first. She did follow it up with a quick pull.
There is a possibility for Oz to put on a little pressure if you would want to, though. But Scarlet, of course, she knows she went for that greedier hatch, so already has a drone position around to make sure no shenanigans or cananigans happen, as we like to call them. Gateway up at the front. Now, this is a wider ramp, so he's going to have to be a little bit more diligent about getting extra pylons there, cybernetics core very quickly, things like that.
Yeah, especially with the Forge on the high ground here. I mean, it's an area that's really vulnerable, honestly. Scarlet, if she wants, you know, still can go for that fast third, but then, of course, could just make, like, 2 roaches and just infinity poke the cybernetics core, which will likely be a part of the wall. And if it isn't, Scarlet's definitely going to have an opportunity to try to go for a run by. So Gateway's about to finish up. We're going to see.
Now, I know I went for the later Photon Cannon, of course, because he knew that it was a hatch first. The links were going to be quite delayed. He could invest back into his other structures for now. I get that. But, you know, had these links not actually been sent around to try and pick off this probe, they could have gotten there with a little time to spare. And looks like the probe will die right at the very end.
Another queen being made by Scarlet. She did go for that very, very fast third base and is now going to be transferring the queen over from the natural.
And important to note, we have a very, very fast +1 weapons from Oz. Sometimes if players want to be a little bit aggressive, they'll put that +1 weapons in place before Warp Gate technology starts to get research, allocate some gas towards that. But this actually happened a little bit quicker than is even normal for that, about 10-15 seconds ahead of time.
Yeah, can we actually... So I want to preface the... I thought that was the second queen being made. It was actually the third queen. So Scarlet's third, she actually made it after she made both of her other queens. So this could prove a little bit effective. I want to take a look at the gas timings of Oz. Can we look at his main base? Were those gases dropped simultaneously? They
pretty much basically
were. So it's not going to be you know, something like a +1 4-gate, for instance. It's much more likely that we might see a Blink Stalker all in. If he, you know, he is going to utilize that fast +1, of course. He could just, you know, just be like, I just felt like hitting a fast +1, and then standard builds from there. But if we see a Twilight Council here in a second or two, 2 gateways and a Twilight Council. It's like super common, so I'm waiting for it.
Fairly quick second gas, and there's 3 more gateways, so we're going to have a total of 4 gates. No robotics facility has been placed down, no Twilight Council, and she does have a fair bit of gas. She actually canceled the sentry just a second ago and ended up going and recovering that gas. I wonder what the purpose of that is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so at this point it is going to be a +1 4-gate. Just very, very interesting he's got a strong follow-up to this is the thing. Because he threw down both of his gases in his main, and then took 2 very fast gases as well at his natural expansion, or at his natural. So 4 gases already for Oz. This isn't going to be the strongest of +1 4 gates. You can see he only has 100 minerals right now.
No, in fact, I think this is just going to get, this is just maybe feigning at it, or going to get shut down very quickly, because Scarlet prepared for this perfectly, and Oz can't get anything done. This pylon's going to fall in just a second.
Here the Zealots warping in, 3 of them in fact.
Yeah, +1 weapons is done, so these Zerglings actually have to get a really great engage here. Otherwise, the Zealots can't actually sit towards the back and just kind of group themselves against the wall, and they will have very little surface area actually exposed to these Zerglings. Oh, unfortunately, a couple drones being transferred are going to die. 2 of them fall. The Zerglings can't get in for the time being. Looks like Scarlet's just delaying until she gets these first 8 roaches up.
Yeah, it is a fact, guys, that +1 Zealots will kill 0/0 Lings with no upgrades, 50% faster. They kill them in 2 shots instead of 3. So that's a really big deal when Scarlet has just made tons of Lings to defend against this. But it shouldn't be too difficult. She's got roaches popping out right now. Lings are engaging down below with the Zealots, but overall, Scarlet should be able to hold this as the roaches are popping out.
Yeah, I mean, she's still going to take a little bit of damage, though. It did a little bit more than I had initially anticipated because Scarlet didn't, you know, just gun it for the pylon and sacrifice her first few Lings or anything. She decided to sit back and play a little bit more defensive. As a result, she loses an additional 2 or 3 workers, but really doesn't take all that much damage. And Oz didn't expand behind this. He is just producing Immortals and Sentry, so I want to know if this is just going to be a giant all-in follow-up to this.
Yeah, he did get the armor as well, so definitely very interesting here because no Twilight Council, but he's going to go for the 930 third. Looks okay, so he's going to at least grab the Twilight Council before taking that.
Yeah,
you really want the Twilight Council, guys. If you get caught off guard by like Mutalisks or something and you went for a fast third, you're going to have to cancel your third, so that got you nothing. And now you are up against a player with Mutas with no Twilight Council, and you can actually just die. Also, he's going to want to be able to start his +2 upgrades here in a moment.
Scarlet just puts down her Infestation Pit, so she will have higher tech as we move throughout this game, but for now, she's actually got a pretty decent amount of forces. The Escort comes out for the probe that's eventually going to put down this 3rd base, but you know, Scarlet's done a great job of delaying her opponent. She's on Infestor Tech now, or going to be, of course, once this Infestation Pit finishes, and she's going up to a 4th base.
Wow, Scarlet dropping her 4th before Oz even gets his 3rd down. That's the epitome of a Zerg being ahead. 55 workers, though. A little bit surprising there. But overall, she can play this very, very greedy at this time because an Observer just popped out. Got Blinken +2 starting up. Oz is definitely not going to be attacking anytime soon, so Scarlet can drone as freely as she wishes. Yeah,
I mean, she's done that. She's going to be on 68 drones here momentarily. Now, Oz did cut at 52 workers. Okay, now starting to restart. Whenever you're around that 50 worker count, you always worry about some sort of a big push, but obviously he had put his infrastructure in place to move up in tech. And I wonder how aggressively Scarlet's going to tech out of this. Are we going to see that passive play, 5 base, tier 3, you know, Hive plus the Aspire being put down at the same time, or are we going to see something a little bit more aggressive, a big Infestor attack?
A 2nd Evolution Chamber. The timing of this is super interesting. It looks like she's going to go for melee and carapace upgrades. Because going for ranged and carapace with your range being 1 ahead is just really interesting. So maybe lots of Infestors and then start working on the Lings to complement those Infestors because Ling Infested Terran is pretty disgustingly awesome.
Yes. Yes, it is. And the upgrades are underway now, but +2 weapons is going to finish up momentarily for Oz, and there's going to be a moment where he's actually going to have a significant upgrade advantage. +1 ranged attacks is done for Scarlet, but nothing for her ground forces, or I'm sorry, I should say for her Zerglings quite yet. So they'll be quite weak still, as they don't even have Carapace to go along with it. Now, we did have that Spire plus Hive starting at about the same time, so she will have her Greater Spire underway in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it looks like basically Scarlet just wants to hold this attack and actually just rush for late game tech. So this is super important for Oz. He needs to get damage in here because if he does not, Scarlet is going to be on very powerful Broodlords extremely fast. And that's basically, I mean, Oz needs to get in here and get damage done.
Yeah, but I mean, his force is not the best, honestly. I mean, he has committed a lot into his infrastructure and his tech back at home. So, yeah, I mean, he is going to pull back, and I think he has to at this stage of the game. Had he not gone for Templar tech and had he just committed to Immortals and a big, like, 10-gate 3-base push, that would have been one thing, but holding back now, this is just a rough situation for him one way or another.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. I mean, this is a unit composition minus that last warping of Zealots that you're used to seeing with like an Immortal Sentry push. And what's a great way to beat an Immortal Sentry push? Ling, Roach, and Fester. Now, if he had Phoenix to complement this, maybe. But without Phoenix and without any splash damage, he has no chance of engaging this army of Scarlet, even though he needs to. Because Greater Spire's on the way right now, Kevin. That Greater Spire is going to complete if he doesn't push out. If he doesn't push out and he doesn't stop that Greater Spire, he's going to die.
And there are 14, yes, 14 spine crawlers on the way at the moment. Drops her overall worker count to 84, so it frees up that supply. Her economy is still plenty good right now. And make sure that she is going to remain very defensive.
All right, Scarlet did start moving out, then saw Oz's army with the Zergling there and decides to fall back to her spine crawlers. And this is not a good timing now for Oz, because if he had hit a little while ago, maybe, but now Scarlet has all these all of these spine crawlers in position. This is going to be really tough for Oz to break, but it is his best chance.
Oz still does have a decent upgrade advantage, but Fungal Growers are hitting a lot of those Zealots and pinning them down so they actually can't attack on the right-hand side. There was a nice use of Infested Terrans directly in front of the units there, too, to make sure that they couldn't continue to push through. But now the powerful units for Oz are exposed at the back, and this is just getting shut down so quickly. Scarlet's actually making pretty quick work with this. In fact, that's just going to end the game. A brilliant defense from Scarlet, and she takes a very convincing game number 3, and it's a 2-1 advantage for Team Acer.
A very nice game there out of Scarlet, and Oz just honestly, you know, he went for that +1 4-gate. It was already pretty weird. +1 4-gate, I mean, it works, you know, but following it up with those really fast gases, it allowed him to tech quickly, but it made the 4-gate itself a lot weaker. And Scarlet then, I mean, she held the 4-gate without taking any damage. And then she was like, oh my god, you're teching like crazy. You took the quickest 4th gases in the world. There's no way you're attacking me. I'm going to drop a 4th before you drop your 3rd. And then it was almost over from there.
Well, we've seen how Scarlet deals with ZVZ and ZVP. Now it's time for ZVT, as Nama is going to come in for Team Fnatic. Good European player, someone we haven't seen in a little while, actually. But, you know, someone when he was playing back for Mouse almost 2 years ago was actually fantastic player, and I'm interested to see how his time on Fnatic has served him. We're going to see that match, though, after a quick commercial break. The map is going to be Ohana. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.